Hey guys, welcome to the Alliance. It's Andrew Hayes, and all all hell has broke loose over the weekend, um, and the Alliance is holding by a thread. Um, it's pretty rough out there. Um, there's some frustration on the hard constitutionalist side, and with the folks who are defending Trump's actions to bomb Iran. And then I think there's even more vitriol, um, shockingly, that those of us who are standing by the Constitution have betrayed Trump somehow. Um, the oath I took when I enlisted was to the Constitution. Um, I don't even know if I'd heard of Trump. Maybe I'd heard his name, but um, the oath is to the Constitution. There was in one of the chats that I'm in. It's a great chat. A lot of great folks in there, but we hit on something that that's really foundational. That I mean, the other side, and it doesn't really matter who it was. I'm not trying to not give them credit, but I'm also not trying to embarrass anybody either. Um, but it doesn't matter. The personality doesn't matter. It's the ideas, and this is a really sharp idea. Is that she said, "Look, you're a constitutionalist pure, or you're a constitutional purist, and I'm a constitutional realist, and I recognize that the Constitution that was put down on paper in 1787 isn't the same Constitution we have today, and that's it. That's in so many ways that's true, and I mean, we have judiciary activism, we have unconstitutional actions by the legislature and the executive. Uh, we don't live in the same world. This is why I'm so sympathetic to. I don't know. Again, not sympathetic to the cause of the No Kings, but I wish I'd have thought of it first, because what we have today, and it's not just Trump. It's Trump. It's Biden. It's Obama. It's Bush. It's Clinton. It goes back. You know, FDR, Wilson, Lincoln. The executive has expanded in power. It has become. I mean, the powers that our modern president has today, like that he actually uses, is more power than what King George III had. King George III did not have the power when he was king that our president has today. And it's not as though that's Trump's fault. All right? So I'm not dogging Trump. I'm saying that we have lost control of this thing, and if if you want to say, well, this is constitutional, here's the thing. Keep in mind that the English had a constitution. It wasn't a written constitution, but it was the established precedents that had come before, the things that had been done in the past. They could look back uh, in the years and see, all right, what did we do last time? Okay, that's what we're going to do this time. And that was their constitution. And um, the founders, the whole point was, hey, we don't want to go through that, because what tends to happen is that somebody violates the Constitution just a little bit, and then the next guy violates it a little bit more, and it becomes part of the Constitution. And the founders wanted to get away from that. They realized that men would err, and that there would be inevitably bad presidents. There would be bad men that would come to hold office, and they didn't want the actions of bad men to become the precedent to justify the bad acts of later bad men to come down the line, or even good men who think they're doing the good thing, but they're not, right? They wanted a constitution written down, and so they wrote it down, and they argued about it a lot. And the state legislatures voted to ratify it based on what it said, because it's written down in English, pretty simple English, not so simple if you came out of the government school system. I get it, uh, because our government school system is fraudulent. They don't give you an education; they give you an indoctrination. Um, so, I get it, but you can work through it. Um, you can still read it. It's not Latin. It's not Latin, and you don't need a priest. You don't need somebody in a black robe to explain it to you. You can read it, and with a little bit of work and effort and thought, you can understand it yourself. Um, but it doesn't look like we're reading it, um, or we're reading it and then we extrapolate. Somebody quoted me. They didn't quote me. They just threw out Article 2, Section 2 says. Well, it doesn't say anything about the power of the president to make war, uh, uh, to declare war. This is a thing, and you can go and look. There's a Avalon project, um, through Yale. Um, Great resource. It's just documents. There's letters. They have the stinking Magna Carta. Um, I say stinking. It's awesome. Magna Carta is awesome. Uh, but it's a great resource. You can go in and you can find the notes. Uh, you can find Madison's notes for the Constitution, uh, Constitutional Convention, right? And he has his notes, day by day, so you can click on the notes. And if you'll click on August 17th, uh, notes, 1787, Madison's notes, you can see that they're discussing, how war should happen. And the idea is that, well, the president is going to be the commander in chief. The executive will be the commander in chief, and he will be the one to make war. Um, but elsewhere, in letters, Madison wrote that the executive should by no means be the one to make the decision of whether we should go to war or not. Um, that should be the choice, the prerogative of the legislature, of the people. The people decide if we go to war or not the president, the people. The president is the one who executes the war. We put him in charge, just as we did George Washington, and we said, lead our men, right? Um, but the choice to go and fight is not up to one man in a republic. That's not grassroots. That's not a republic. That is monarchical power. And again, by the time that King George III came to the throne, the monarch didn't even have that power anymore. We had taken that from him in the English Civil War. So, um, absolutely, the president does not have the power to do that. Again, if you want to argue under the new Constitution, because it's been done so many times, and there's a sense to where, uh, yeah, there's a reality to that. Uh, the income tax is a real thing. I mean, I guess it was there was an amendment for that, but look, the Federal Reserve is a real thing, and it's unconstitutional, but we got it. The Department of Education is unconstitutional, but we have it. So because all these things have gone on for uh, 40 or 50 or 80 or 100 years, uh, by that framework, you're saying that therefore it's constitutional. So that's a dangerous game, my friend. That's a dangerous game. And in fact, um, you might have family values, and you might favor more free market than the left does, perhaps. But I would argue that if you're arguing from this living constitution, then you're more on the left than you are on the right. You're more on the left than you are on the right. See, guys, the idea of left and right isn't. It's not a list of political issues and where you stand on it. It's about your worldview. It's about the worldview, and the difference in the worldview between the left and the right is what causes you to be aligned on this side of so many issues, and that's what causes the left to be aligned on this side of so many issues. Um, the moderate, is not clear in his thinking. He's not clear in his thinking. He hasn't developed this worldview one way or the other. He hasn't really thought it through. He doesn't know. Um, and it's not to say that necessarily everyone on the right or everyone on the left has consciously sat down and examined uh, the nature of man and thought about the nature of man, but they have resolved in their mind those ideas, even though it's not a conscious idea. Um, so let's see, where else do we want to go with that? There's also the idea that the Constitution is dead, that we live in a post constitutional society, um, and that the Constitution just doesn't even matter. We are so far removed from the Constitution that there's no use to follow it. And I mean, you know what? I disagree. Um, in some ways, I agree. Honestly, in some ways, I agree. We are so far removed from the Constitution. It's a fair thing to say, and there's truth to it, that it's dead. It died with Madison v. Marlborough, or May. I get the names confused. May anyway. Um, See, I have a new phone, but I didn't bring it with me, so I can look this stuff up. Um, but 1803, the Supreme Court case with Madison and the appointments, um, Madison's appointment by Jefferson, and because what had happened is Adam had uh, nominated some people right before his term expired, but the people he nominated hadn't received the nomination. They were still on the desk at the White House. So Jefferson tossed them, nominated Madison, and the court said, no, you can't do that. So there they have judicial review, and they read judicial review into the Constitution. And, if it didn't die then, that's that's when the poison was delivered. And it's hard to say if it's dead when it died. And if we're being completely honest and being a realist, then yeah, the Constitution is dead. The kind of the trouble with that is, what do you do and where do you go from there? Um, do we have a revolution, an armed conflict, and um, overthrow the government and reconstitute a new government? Are we saying that this government has become destructive of the means for which it was laid down? As Jefferson said about the British, our political ties to the British. Is that our relationship as Oklahomans to the federal government? I think philosophically you could probably get there, but realistically, I don't think you can. So you're kind of boxed into a paradox there. Um, I think you kind of just have to fight as if the Constitution matters. Um, there's no other way than to fight as though the Constitution matters, and at some point to work towards secession. Um, I was talking with somebody, and they said, if the country goes down, we all go down. And I didn't pipe in there, but um, not not necessarily, guys. This is it's not the idea. The Constitution didn't create the states. The states created the Constitution. Uh, but still, by virtue of that fact, if the federal government fails, we still have states. We still have state governments. Um, so if the federal government goes away, we still have a state government. We still have a state constitution that's not too terribly awful. Um, it's something that can be worked with, and life goes on. Uh, of course, what's that called? I'm not much of a seaman or anything like that. Uh, but undertow, is that what it is? Where the ship, you have this massive ship like the Titanic, and it goes down, and you're off the boat, but you're too close, and it sucks you down with it. If that's a thing, I don't know. Maybe that's a myth. I wouldn't know. Um, Point being is that that could happen. Uh, the wise thing to do, if you realize that the sea liner you're on is in jeopardy, would be to get in your lifeboat and get away from that thing. You know, um, and there's an idea. Maybe we should not wait until the moment of crisis to leave. Maybe we should leave on good terms when things are okay, uh, so that we're not pulled down. I think that would be the wise course. Um, but let me go back and talk about the alliance a little bit more, um, especially in this grassroots movement. Um, so, and I kind of hate this analogy, um, but it makes the point is that, well, I can make a different analogy that the Union is is one country, so we're united, but it doesn't mean that Oklahoma is the same as Massachusetts. It doesn't mean that Oklahoma is the same as California or Oregon or Tennessee. Um, we are our own thing, but we're united. And I would propose that the grassroots has real division in it. Um, and let me back up. Let me back up a minute because I've said this. I've said this to several people, and I might have talked about it on the show. I think I talked about it when I talked about dueling uh, years ago. But the idea is that human nature is such that certain things are hardwired into us, and so those things need to be channeled so that they can be good, or at least not destructive, instead of being bad. And so, sex is one. It's channeled, or ought to be, used to be channeled into the institution of marriage. Violence is one. We're violent creatures, and we had a channel for that in the institution of dueling. Um, where there were lots of off ramps before a duel. There were systems in place to resolve the conflict beforehand, before it came to bloodshed. And when it did happen, it wasn't, is oftentimes not to the death. More duels happened that were non-lethal than were lethal. So, and which is outstanding. It's incredible that so many duels were non-lethal, given the uh, rudimentary medicine that they had back then, and yet most duels were non-lethal. Uh, and dueling was illegal, was made illegal. And look at us today. We don't have a channel for that violence, and there's violence everywhere. There's way more violence today than there was in the 1700s, when dueling was legal, or in the South up to the time of Reconstruction, right? So we would do much better to have these things controlled. The left wants to eliminate things. Um, they don't want to see it channeled. Um, and one thing that I think is a part of human nature is to have division. It's to have, frankly, it's to have cliques. It's to have groups. And if the groups are constructive, um, then that division can be good. And that's why I called my show The Alliance, is because we're not the same. There is division, but that division shouldn't cause us to be ununited. And of course, I have a different view when it comes to the actual states, but within the grassroots, um, there's real division, and that division should be channeled. Uh, there's the uh, more limited government, uh, old conservative, uh, you know, just limited government, peace, sound money, free markets, right? That's conservative. That's the old limited government conservatism of Jefferson, of Madison, of George Mason, and then there's also the more puritanical conservatism that is more attuned to, I put this forward, and I think I got it. I think that Jake Merrick um, is a Christian conservative first, before he's a limited government conservative. I mean, and this is why we're in alliance, because he's entirely sympathetic, and every chance he gets, he's going to try to limit government, but that's not his first objective. His first objective is to promote Christian values, right? Whereas I'll promote Christian values any chance I get, but my first my first goal is to limit government. And I think that by limiting government, you allow Christianity to go forth and to grow naturally and on its own. So, see, there's a divide there. There's different camps, but we are still united. And I consider Jake a good friend. I've gotten to know Jake pretty well over the last year or so, and so none of it's a knock. It's just, look, this is where he's at, this is where I'm at, and it comes from down below in the roots about our views of government. He has this saying, and we talk. I think I even might have talked about this last week, that you know he is wanting for the people to take a hold and to become the government. And my my worldview is that it will never happen. That those in power will never be those who are out of power, because it's mutually contradictory, right? So, um, but there's still an alliance there. I'm I'm kind of surprised that he was. I heard his show this morning. I'm kind of surprised that he was in. I didn't hear all of it, but I am surprised what I did hear. It sounded like he was not only not only pleased but impressed and glad about the strike. You know, the it's and I'll kind of wrap up on this. Uh, I saw where somebody posted, "Dang old Alex Jones." I don't have a lot to say about Alex Jones. I don't consume Alex Jones hardly at all. I think I've said it before. About as much as I do stinking NPR, right? Because I want to hear um, all kinds of ideas, even if I don't agree with them. But you know, man, I think Alex Jones is right on this. He threw out a piece, I guess today, that there's sleeper cells in the United States, Iranian sleeper cells. They've come in the last 4, 8, however many years, and that they're going to be activated. That we're facing attacks on our grid. I mean, who knows what kind of terrorist attacks we're we're vulnerable to now. Now because we got involved. We shouldn't have gotten involved. That's not America first. Um, the uranium was enriched to 60%. It's not weapons grade. It's a step away from weapons grade. Um, dang old Marco Rubio. This guy's a clown. Um, he's criticizing Iran for doing the same thing that Iran has done for the last 50 years. Well, for the last 50 years, it's worked. So why are they the dumb guy now? Because they've done what has always worked. Um, I would do what has always worked, and we're doing it now. We're inflating. We're pushing interest rates down lower because it's always worked. Guess what? It's not always going to work. There's going to be a day of reckoning. There's going to be a day of reckoning for us on the monetary side, just like there's a day of reckoning for Iran. And we're going to think, oh, well, it's going to be okay. And it's not. But in this case, it's not just the cold hard laws of economics. It's people on our side making decisions. Rubio said, we didn't make this decision. Yeah, we did. Trump made that decision, and he should have left it to Congress. And guys, the imminent to repel, the president does have the power to repel invasions and imminent attacks. And for the last 60 days, we have been in these on and off negotiations and everything. And you're going to tell me that 60 days is imminent? At some point in those 60 days, that Trump couldn't have walked his caboose over to Capitol Hill and asked Congress for a declaration of war. I'm not buying it. It would have absolutely been feasible, possible. There's no reason why it couldn't have happened. It would have been good. It would have been good for the negotiation. Because after the third or fourth or fifth day that they don't show up to the negotiation, Trump goes over there to Capitol Hill and asks for a declaration of war. Congress gives it to him, and I'm sure they would have. I'm sure they would have. Look at who's in Congress. Guys, let me tell you what. It's not MAGA, and you can tell it's not MAGA. I mean, this logically, this is a bad argument. I don't want you to believe this because of this argument. What I want you to do is take this argument and think and go look deeper into it. Go back and read the notes from August 17th of the Constitutional Convention. Read Madison's letter to Jefferson about war powers. Um, Read the Constitution. The president has the authority to repel imminent attacks and invasion. I don't even think it says imminent attacks. But you know what? I get it. I think that flows inside of what we're talking about. If we see planes from some foreign nation flying our way over the Atlantic Ocean, I don't think that's not an invasion, but I think I think the president is within his power to shoot those planes out of the sky, 100%. All right, but that's not what we have here. It's not imminent. There's all kinds of time, and we didn't do it the right way. Not according to the Constitution of 1790. Have we done it the right way according to how every other president has done it in the 20th and early 21st century? Sure. Yeah, I'll give you that. But we've violated the Constitution for the last 100 years too. So because again, it goes back to that idea. Because 10 other people have done it. Now it's okay. Now it's okay. Because if you do the wrong thing long enough, it becomes the right thing. That's exactly what the framers were trying to get away from. That's why we wrote down. That's why we wrote down our Constitution, and we didn't just say, "Well, let's just see what happens. Let's just see how it goes." No, we're not doing that. It's not going to work out. Um, and maybe this hasn't worked out. Anyway, I don't know what else to say. I wish there was a way that I could uh, take a call or have somebody on right now. That's what I would do. But since I can't, you're just going to have to put your comments down there. Go to the alliance.live. Ought to be a place there now to leave a comment. I'm not sure if that's up yet. Uh, and after you're done, that's what I was going to say, guys. This argument shouldn't convince you, but it should cause you to be curious. Who's the first person that opened his mouth about this? That hoodie boy from Pennsylvania, and his name escapes me, but I know that everybody knows who I'm talking about. That guy. That's the guy that cheered. Not just him, but I don't know. Uh, Mike Pence, the traitor Mike Pence, is cheering bombing Iran. You've got that Cheney lady, whatever, Liz Cheney. She's on board with it. All the people that you hate in the establishment, the neocons, all those people are for this. That should give you a clue. All the people that are MAGA, Elon Musk isn't for this. Tulsi Gabbard isn't for this. And I don't know, I might be wrong about that. Maybe Tulsi has gone over to the dark side. In March, she said, yes, they have uh, uranium enriched to 60%. It's not weapons grade. It's higher than what they need for any other legitimate purpose. It's in this mid range. You can enrich to uh, less than 5% and have nuclear power. You enrich to 20% for medical uses, and then there's no other benefit to enrichment other than to be a step away from weapons grade. And they were a step away from weapons grade, and I think this is what I started talking about before, that they do that, they have done that, they've always done that as a bargaining chip to bargain back down from. And by the way, guys, let me throw this out there. So all the, yeah, I guess I've said that. Isn't it curious that all the people, the Never Trumpers, Ben Shapiro, Mark Levin, these guys are all cheering Trump doing this? Guys, it's not MAGA. It's the deep state. It's the deep state, guys. It was wrong when Obama bombed Yemen. When Obama bombed Yemen, when Biden bombed Yemen, when Trump bombed Yemen. We need to put America first, stop meddling in the Middle East, and get out of there. You know what? It's showing China how tough we are. But guess what? It's going to bleed us dry. We're going to go broke doing this crap. It's making us weak. Long run, it's making us weak. and we can't afford it, and it's going to be our downfall. It's the same thing that happened to Rome. Guys, go back and look at Rome. What happened to Rome? They overexpanded, they overexerted themselves, and it caused them to be weak, and they fell. We are in so many ways Rome, um, which also started out as a republic and then lost its republicanness. Um, but they were just, the ancients were just so much more honest. They're just so much more honest, and they called it what it is. Uh, that that fascist symbol, and we, oddly enough, we have them in the well of the house. When you see the State of the Union, and the camera pans out, you see those images. They almost look like dollar signs. Um, on either side. Those aren't dollar signs, guys. What that is it's like a banner or something. But what you're really looking at is you're looking at a bundle of sticks with an axe down in the bundle of sticks, but the axe head is sticking out of the bundle of sticks. And that is the symbol of the state. Why? Because the state is violence. I think I talked about this last week. Um, The state is violence. There's the stick for corporal punishment, and there's the axe for capital punishment. Capital meaning head, to remove the head. That's where that comes from. Um, yeah, look at the people. I'm telling you guys. And then I forget the other point I was going to drive at. Um, I'm just going to call it a wrap. I can't think of it, but thanks for joining me. Go to the that's right. That's right. I remember now. Is because it's how I always sign off. The name calling, uh, the ad hominems, the logical fallacies. When you're done with all that, just tell me how I'm wrong. And that's what we need to be focused on here, is the actual idea. Um, separate. Just try to do this. Separate the person from the policy. Never mind Trump. Pretend it's not Trump. Let's pretend it's Obama. Let's pretend Obama does this. Are you still cheering? Do you still think it's a good idea? Because that changes things. I think that changes things for a lot of people. I don't think that if Biden or Obama did this, that MAGA would cheer. It's not. It's not MAGA. Uh, Again, it's the deep state, and um, yeah. So, anyway, it's a wrap, guys. We're out of here.